What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Washington Brawl podcast, the podcast of your now 1-3 Washington football team who fell mere moments ago to the Cleveland Browns. We, of course, are brought to you by the Brawl Network. I am your host, Parker Hamlet, joined by everybody's favorite Hokie, Chris Fowler, and the Washington Brawl insider, Catch the Blitz's own Owen Smith. If you thought last week was bad, guys, Dwayne Haskins and company stunk it up at the dog pound, fell 34-20 to Baker Mayfield and company. The game went exactly how a lot of us thought it would go, to be honest, but it was definitely a hell of a ride. Owen, Chris, what is the first word that comes to mind after the Week 3 loss?
What is that thing that OBJ likes to do in bed again? I think that's the best way to describe this week, dude. It's just in order to not have Chris have a long night editing with this bleep machine, I'm just gonna go ahead and pass it over to him so he can do all the trouble.
You know you're not looking out for me. You just don't want your mom to hear you.
That's very possible. That is very, yeah.
Well, I truly am going to do it for the sake of the bleep machine. I won't even go there, but I want to ask you this, Parker. Why the hell did we even start a podcast for a team that we knew was going to play like this? It's going to be like this is the future for us now. I noticed that you went ahead and included the third loss for next week's game. So we'll definitely have another somber pod next week. It's just not going to be fun, man. It's just not going to be fun.
Oh, God, yeah, we're 1-3.
We're 1-2.
Oh my God! Look, man, I'm sorry. Next week is already a foregone conclusion for me. We're not beating Ravens, okay? Let's not even sit here, kick the can on that, and act like it's even in the realm of possibility. I was gonna go to that game just to see Lamar Jackson, not because I thought we even had a chance to win. So yes, in my mind, we are already 1-3, not 1-2. And quite frankly, if we had a chance of being above 500 before, or at any point, especially over the next 3 or 4 to 5 games we're going to play in a lot of tough matchups, this was a game we needed to win, and we just didn't come out on top. And it was just a shit show. It's something we said last week after the Cardinals game. This game was a lot of the same. And it's really sad because honestly, we start off terrible and then end pretty strong. Whereas this game was kind of the other way around. After a promising opening touchdown drive, Dontre Omen with a great catch, we were on the board for the first time all season. And Haskins went on to have his worst game ever since he relieved Case Keenum against the Giants last year. Haskins, who's easily the story of this game, 3 interceptions, honestly should have been 4 if not for a great deflection by Isaiah Wright, also a fumble. The backbreaker here is that all 3 Haskins interceptions led to touchdown drives for the Cleveland Browns. We said going into the game that no one had more pressure on them in the Washington football team than Dwayne Haskins. Coach Rivera said that he's going to take his lumps with Dwayne, and he's going to support him, and he does not plan on pulling the plug anytime soon. Do you guys disagree with Coach Rivera, or would you pull the plug on Dwayne after this performance?
Absolutely not, man. Dwayne, I said this, before the season even started. Dwayne needs to stay in there for all 16 games. The only time we should ever see an Alex Smith or Kyle Allen situation is injury. And God forbid that doesn't happen, but that's the only time we need to see him. We need to see him progress. We need to see him develop. We need to see him become everything he can be. And if he can't be that, then most likely we'll be in a situation where we'll be drafting high anyways. So I literally think there's no way you could possibly have a better scenario than playing Dwayne Haskins all 16 games, because either you see Dwayne progress and you see him develop into the franchise quarterback you want him to be, or you end up with a high draft pick, and that makes for a really tough season, but it could be, beneficial down the road.
Rivera's sticking by his guy. And, you said if things keep going the way they are, we are going to end up in a situation where we can draft maybe a Trevor Lawrence, maybe a Justin Fields. I know that's a long time away from now, but when your quarterback, who is former 15th overall pick, is playing at this level against a team that defensively definitely is not stout, despite what we said going into the pregame, this was a very winnable game. And there was one point in the game where we did take the lead, and all we had to do was finish strong, and that just isn't what happened here. Owen, after a very discouraging week 3 for Dwayne Haskins, are we close? Are we nearing a point in your eyes where we pull the plug?
I don't think we pulled the plug this season, but it's definitely getting to a point where we might pull the plug in the future. I've been very high on Haskins. I met him in person. I've talked to him about J. Cole and music taste. He's a great character kid. I love him as a leader in the locker room. But what happened today on the field just isn't excusable anymore. Those are passes that quarterback should complete if you're starting. There's no way around that. Sam Darnold could have completed those passes. Joe Burrow completed those passes. There's quarterbacks right now that are being trashed around the league that complete those passes in their sleep. There's no excuses for those type of passes. Yes, there's bad offensive line. Cool. Joe Burrow, look at him, dude. He got rocked today by Fletcher Cox and still tied the game. Like, there's no excuse when it comes to bad offensive line. When in quarterbacks, I mean, there is some excuse. I take that back. But
I think there is an excuse when it comes to offensive line, but the offensive line didn't play bad today.
No,
they had some blown plays, but this has been by far their best game as a whole unit, and it's just all on Dwayne. He made bad reads, he made bad throws, he just had bad quarterback play. But what kills me though is that you take out the 3 picks, he probably had his best game that he's had for Washington as a starter. I think he threw for maybe 230 yards passing, something like that, 2 touchdowns. And he looked good on those completions. He looked good when he got that yardage. He looked good on those touchdowns. But it's like night and day with him, man. And it's kind of night and day with this whole team. You see the worst play you've ever seen from an NFL player, and then you look and it's like, wow, that was a really good pass. That was a really good catch. Logan Thomas dropped a pass, like a little 5-yard hitch route. He just dropped it and then made a diving catch the next play. I mean, it's so hard to judge these guys because they're just so inconsistent. But you can't be inconsistent in the NFL. You're just not a good player if you're 50% each way.
And, we're sitting here just cutting Dwayne down, and it's completely justified. But, I mean, let's talk about some of the things that made Dwayne Haskins have such a porous outing. To me, initially, what stuck out to me the most was that he was staring down his receivers, man. And it was just abundantly obvious, especially on that interception of Malcolm Smith. I mean, he was staring the entire time, all the way through the progression. Meanwhile, on Sunday Night Football, you got Aaron Rodgers, no looking stuff like Mahomes. And we got Dwayne over here staring at dudes 30 yards downfield, and then he looks completely blindsided, completely shocked that the other team comes away with a takeaway in that situation. Those are things that you learn in high school, man. You played Ohio State, 1 year of football, you're raw talent. But I mean, still, he threw 55 touchdowns, got one of the greatest college football coaches all time in Urban Meyer. I'm pretty sure Urban got on Dwayne about that. That's something that people around the league got on Dwayne about. And Kyle said that's one of his biggest issues. Not only that, I agree with you guys. The offensive line held up extremely well, especially compared to weeks prior. I mean, that Myles Garrett strip sack didn't come to damn near the end. So the fact that Jerron Christian held off Myles Garrett that long, to me, is a feat in and of itself. Dwayne also said after the game that he did not, and I quote, feel like he was staring anybody down during this game. You guys agree with Dwayne Haskins, or do you guys think he's kind of talking out of pocket there?
I don't know if he's like denying the truth or anything, or just doesn't know. I mean, I guess when you're living in that moment, you never really know until you go back and look at the film. But it was blatantly obvious. I think everyone in the building, everyone at home could tell you exactly what he was doing and why the Cleveland defenders were able to get such good breaks on his ball. And also, they just weren't good passes. I mean, you can say he was staring down Logan Thomas on his first interception, but even if he wasn't, it was just a bad ball. He overthrew him. And it was just an easy pick. It landed in the lap of the Cleveland defender. So, I mean, honestly, like, I don't even know if you can blame it on staring down the receiver because, I mean, even on the ball
he shouldn't have thrown. Period.
Yeah, even on the last pick, he was double covered. It's just not the right read.
But they read the quarterback's eyes. And I mean, when you're making Malcolm Smith look like Bobby Wagner over there, a big part of that is the fact that when he's standing back there in the middle of the field, he's looking at Haskins stare directly at the receiver. I mean, it's so easy to read his eyes. I mean, we made Carl Joseph look like Jamal Adams. I mean, Owen, you feel like Dwayne's kind of going on a tangent here by saying that he didn't feel like he was staring anybody down? I feel like everybody else saw exactly what we saw.
I wouldn't say when I play football, y'all play football, you know how it is. Adrenaline's rushing after the game. You feel like, I probably, like, I feel like I didn't miss as many tackles as I did. I feel like I didn't drop as many balls as I did because your adrenaline's rushing, right? You have the type of momentary, like play. You move on the next moment really quickly when you're on the field. And so especially when you're leading the team like Haskins is supposed to be doing and you're the leadership role, there's just I can see how he could think that he wasn't doing what he was doing. And in that circumstance, when the press asks you that, though, you're supposed to say, you know what, I screwed up. I'll look at the film and see what I did and see
exactly.
How I did that. Don't deny it.
As a captain, that's what you should do.
If the media is asking you, how do you feel about this mistake that you made? You probably made the mistake, right? The media's job is to look at your stats, your progressions, and to read you and then break it down for the readers at home. They know you made a mistake if they're asking you about it. The only exception I've ever seen is that Jeff Okudua interview at the draft where he was like talking about penalties and he didn't have any. But there's journalists know what they're doing 90% of the time. And if he's going to ask you, you got to say, look, I made a mistake. This isn't that I'll go home and I'll address it and I'll look over it with my coach. You can't deny it.
What was the DB's name again, Owen?
Jeff Okudua? I have no idea, bro.
Okuda.
Look.
Okuda Matata.
You gotta stop. You gotta stop embarrassing me on live, bro.
I swear Owen's Canadian, guys. There's gotta be something.
I want to move to Canada.
But you talk about Haskins being able to handle that criticism. You talk about him being able to bear the weight of being a captain and own up to his mistakes, especially when the media confronts him. Because their entire job is to analyze him, things he does well, the things he does badly. One thing that stuck out to me is that Rivera was not super critical of Dwayne. He just said that he would stick with Dwayne. So Dwayne's apparently doing like we've talked about weeks prior. Rivera's always said, if you do what is expected, you do what we say, then that's nobody's fault but ours. So I think Dwayne is doing what's expected of him. But his biggest issue to this point, obviously, is accuracy.
I think that's a stretch on doing what's expected of him, because I think Ron Rivera more than anyone knows that Dwayne sucked out there today.
He did suck, but what I'm saying is that Logan Thomas is the ball he wanted to throw right there, but the accuracy is the issue. The accuracy is Dwayne Haskins' biggest issue right now. You can talk about his footwork, you can talk about his mechanics, you can talk about him staring down receivers, but if the balls are accurately thrown, you could still come out of a lot of those plays with completions.
I got a question for y'all, right? So right now we're running off this Haskins thing with the idea that in Ron we trust, right? Like if he says that Haskins is doing what he's supposed to be doing out there, we got to trust what Ron says. If we go 115, are you still going to believe in this in Ron we trust, or are you going to start being like, I don't know if this is going to work?
Ron Rivera is a whole different conversation, because we're going to get into it later about his usage of timeouts, and that's a whole other thing in and of itself. But as far as Dwayne Haskins is concerned, Rivera didn't seem to, flame Haskins out during that post-game presser. He said, I'm going to ride Haskins. He said, I'm going to go with him all the way to the end, pretty much. And
what else do you say? What else do you say as a head coach for a young quarterback? But yeah, you suck today. You can't say that about your young QB.
Okay, yeah, by the young QB, but you're at the professional level. Look what Bruce Arians says about Tom Brady. That guy got 6 Super Bowl rings, and he's out there talking about Brady like he's a scrub after that week 1 performance.
Because he has 6 Super Bowl rings. Right now, Ron is.
And I understand that. And I understand that. But if we're going to sit here and say Ron knows best,
as if Haskins a rookie quarterback, because he pretty much is. So yes, you got to give the kid time to progress and to learn the game. But at the same time, we can't continue to give him all the excuses in the world.
But that's what the fan base is doing. And to an extent, I feel like that's what Ron Rivera was doing. I expected Ron Rivera to come up to the podium and say a lot more than he said about Dwayne Haskins.
That's not at all what the fan base is doing, dude. Have you looked over Instagram and Twitter recently? My DMs, my posts, my tweet notifications with fans that aren't reporters have all been, this kid is trash, to put it in a non-explicit way. They're mad about Haskins.
I think it goes both ways
today when it comes to interceptions.
I think it goes both ways. I think a lot of the fan base is overcritical of him, and the other half is very overly protective of him. And I can see both sides, because I've been there. Last week I think you could have said I was overprotective of him because I was blaming the O-line. But this week it was purely on Dwayne, period. But as in Ron Rivera's shoes, he can't go up there and tell the media that Dwayne sucked. That's stuff for behind closed doors. And I think that's what Ron is. We know other coaches that would come up there and talk trash about their starting QB and how they played that day. But Ron's not that guy, and I appreciate that of him. We might disagree with everything he has to say, but at the end of the day, he's going to take care of that stuff behind closed doors. He's going to take care of that stuff in the quarterback room, on the field, on the practice field and stuff. That's not stuff you're going to see in front of the media, which I have to give a hat tip to Ron for.
I want to agree with you, but I mean, there has been instances where he has been critical of players publicly. You know, he as much as of a pedestal as they want to put Troy Apke on, you know, he even himself admitted some of the weaknesses in Troy Apke's game with his angles and some of his tackling. And I felt like I wouldn't have looked at Ron any differently if he were to come out today and say that Haskins played poorly, because he did. And quite frankly, I think Haskins did a terrible job of presenting himself as a leader. And honestly, I hate when people take that angle with Haskins, because I feel like some people are overly critical of him, just like people are overprotective of him. But at the same time, I just feel like there isn't a lot to praise this week whatsoever. And I feel like Dwayne needs to take this as a learning experience and not be deflective. You know, everybody saw him on Instagram. You know, don't be a fan later, blah, 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 blah. You know, at the end of the day, man, you were the reason this football team lost the game. I mean, we can blame whoever we want. You can blame the turf. You can blame the linemen. You can blame the coaching. I thought Scott Turner had a great offensive game plan this week. I don't see this loss on anyone but Dwayne Haskins, just off the sheer statistic that every turnover he had led to a Cleveland Brown touchdown. So at some point you have to take that stuff on the chin. And if your coaches and everyone around you are going to hold you accountable, you need to hold yourself accountable. So, and not only that, my biggest thing with Haskins is that he was not taking what the defense was giving him. You know, he had a very simple stick play concept, had somebody in the flats, had a couple quick looks, and then he tucks the ball, runs the left side of the pocket, gets sacked. You know,
well, that's just because
he
just thrown an interception. That's because he just thrown an interception. He didn't want to throw another one. I guarantee you that's what it was, and that's not, you know, an NFL caliber mindset. But I'm telling you, that's what happened. He was so scared of throwing another pick, and God, I would be too.
If it's not an NFL caliber mindset, then he's not an NFL starting caliber quarterback. And we need
to right now. He did not play like an NFL starting caliber quarterback today, and that's okay until week 8.
It's also okay for us to say that he's not playing well. That doesn't make me any less of a fan. That doesn't make you any less of a fan, or vice versa. You know, I feel like I don't like how that's the rap that people are being given today after criticizing Haskins, because at the end of the day, this was his worst game to date. You know, Chris said that it was his best game to date in some sense, because, you know, I mean, because some of his passing statistics, but I mean, 3 turnovers, man, it was excusable in that New York Giants game last year, because I mean, look, you know, he came in relief of Case Keenum. Jay Gruden was head coach, but in this instance, you're playing against a not very good Browns defense and a very mediocre Browns offense, and you know, you had the lead at one point, and you had guys wide open. You had Terry McLaurin for 6 multiple times. And that's a whole other discussion in itself. But as far as Haskins is concerned, I feel like he deserves all the blame that he's getting for this. But I will say, I did get an odd sense of relief from the fact that we finally let Dwayne, you know, let him be aggressive with the ball. You know, let him throw the ball. And, you know, not only did lose us the game, but we got to see what he can do with his arm, and we got to see that he does need to improve with his accuracy. In a sense, I do feel for Haskins. You know,
I mean, there's another thing we need to look at. Like, whenever the red zone plays with Inman that got the touchdowns, they were not on a script play too. If you look at that, that was like the next line up, like a quick play, let Haskins use the ball, tempo type, quick tempo play. And so far that's what Haskins has been good at, which is weird because that's where most quarterbacks fail at. So it's just Haskins is so confusing to me right now.
It's such a hard situation to judge, and like I was about to say, I feel for Haskins. You know, I mean, for those who are watching, you know, Owen says he's met him. I've met him. You know, I've got a jersey right there. You know, he showed flashes, like Owen just said. Both touchdowns to Edmond were on the money. You know, he overcame a double-digit deficit in the third quarter.
I can't blame you for anything about screwing up talking, man.
Then the ball started going high, and you know, things went downhill. You know, it's funny because we were talking about leading up to this game that, you know, Delane was handling the ball so well. And once he gets to the point where he's becoming a turnover machine, that's when you need to consider a different option at quarterback. You know, like I said, dude, Lake Lewis jinxed him, man. We called that last week. But the thing is, things don't get easier from here. Like I mentioned earlier in the episode, we have the Ravens next week. So, Chris, I'll start with you. What is your confidence level with Haskins being under center next week?
Well, I want to go back to the previous point before. I want to hit on 2 things. One thing is that I don't know if y'all remember, but Isaiah Wright saved Dwayne Haskins from having a 4th interception and a 5th turnover. So that's one point to make.
Also, that I called Isaiah Wright hype all last podcast, and you continuously doubted me, and I brought him to light on this podcast.
He showed flashes. He's
a football player.
Terry McLaurin was still by far the best player on the offensive side of the ball, but he did show flashes. Isaiah Wright did.
Terry McLaurin's a top 3 wide receiver statistically.
It was interesting to me how often Scott Turner, and this kind of hits on my second point, how hard Scott Turner was calling plays for Isaiah Wright when we haven't seen those play calls go to Sims or really McLaurin or Gibson. I mean, he was feeding Isaiah Wright like he couldn't feed him anymore today. And so this kind of hits.
He's the only player the Browns hadn't accounted for because he hasn't been seen before.
Can you account for Terry? Terry showed you can't really account for him, man.
Oh, you can guard him. You can double cover.
You can game plan around Terry, but can you game plan for Isaiah Wright, who comes up out of nowhere, targeted 6 times, averaging 4.7 yards of separation? You can't prepare for that, you know? And I feel like that is why he had a big game. And I feel like he came up and made a hell of a first impression. And another guy who made a hell of a first impression, who had a hell of a game, was Antonio Gandy-Golden, you know, had that huge run. I know Carl Joseph took his soul on that one. But
he got up and patted him on the back. That was such a good play by him.
Antonio Gandy-Golden, man, he's kind of building on something here. You know, his stats aren't anything to write home about, but I mean the way the usage of him on the offense, he's definitely making some plays. You know,
I'm bipolar with AGG.
I'm excited about AGG, but he didn't show me anything today to show me that he was the future. He had the one good run that he was on, and then when he got hit, he got murdered. Welcome to the NFL, AGG from Liberty.
Well, if Haskins gives him an accurately thrown ball later in the game on that challenge, I mean, that's another thing we'd be talking about right now.
NFL receivers catch that ball. I'm sorry. Wasn't the greatest throw in the world.
NFL quarterbacks deliver that ball.
He got 2 hands on it. He had 2 hands on it. You got to catch them.
Isaiah Wright catches that ball.
Sure. That proves my point more. AGG didn't play great today.
I like his speed. He had good burst of speed on that run. That's the only thing that I'll be like. His athleticism is nice. He needs to work on those hands.
So we're jumping around a lot, but this is like the last one I really wanted to hit on this last segment. We talked about last pod. What is Dwayne, and what is Terry? It is a quick slant. We did not see one slant route today. That's really, I thought Scott Turner did well, but if you want to play to your quarterback's strengths, especially in a position where it's a 2-score ball game and he's thrown 3 picks, why not run a slant? Why not do it in the first half? Why not do it in the second quarter, the third quarter? I just don't understand. That's what's been working, and I understand maybe that's all that's been working, so Cleveland's prepared for it. Give it a shot, man. I didn't see it one time today.
I just think the biggest thing with that is, and I think where Scott Turner made up for that was that he was finding ways to get his receivers open, give them a ton of separation with the underneath routes. You know, receivers sort of like, if basketball in a sense, picking each other off in the middle of the field. I mean, there were so many instances. J.D. McKissick completely wide open on that mesh route over the left side of the field, set them up inside the 5. There were just so many instances, and I thought Scott Turner had a great game plan.
I thought he did too. I don't understand why you don't go back to the
This is the first time I can't blame anything on Scott Turner.
I can't. You know, I like I said, I think Scott Turner coached his best game as Washington football team's offensive coordinator. To me, it just all goes back to Haskins. Terry McLaurin was open for 6. Several instances.
Bad reads, bad passes, bad accuracy.
And Terry was visibly frustrated multiple times. And that is not something that you see out of Terry McLaurin, especially with Dwayne Haskins being his former teammate at Ohio State, you know, them building a hell of a friendship together over the years. He is becoming visibly frustrated with him not being able to get the ball, especially when he's burning corners in the back of the end zone, you know? And that was an issue we saw last year with Haskins.
There's something I'm proud of Terry, and Terry knows that he will make a play. Terry knows he's a playmaker, and he will take advantage of Patrick Peterson like that. And Dwayne just isn't doing anything about it. Dwayne's reads are so, like, his on-the-field football smart is not okay for a starting caliber quarterback. He needs to be able to read the coverage. He needs to be able to play off the defense. And I don't care if literally there has to be someone on the field who stands next to him and points at the wide receiver and says, throw there. He needs to throw better. Like, it's not okay. It's not okay.
An NFL quarterback makes that throw in the back of the end zone, man. I do agree with Chris though. If Terry was given the ball in more ample situations, he'd have an opportunity to, and Chris's favorite way to say it, rack the yak. You know,
T-Mac rack the yak. Hey, look, I think we learned something today too that I think we kind of already knew. Dwayne can't throw outside the numbers.
He can't. And that was a big thing that the Arizona Cardinals game plan for against Dwayne Haskins. They knew he could not throw outside the numbers, and they tried to exploit that as much as they could.
We go back to last year, he was missing out routes, and we just thought it was a rookie thing. It was a timing thing. It was he didn't get the reps and stuff, and we've seen him miss 5 yard outs this season. We saw him miss that corner route to Terry in the end zone. He can't throw outside the numbers, and I think that's why his slant routes work so well. The slant route, the mesh route, the little post route to Inman that got the 2 touchdowns. He can throw. He can throw like any other quarterback inside the numbers, but outside the numbers, near the boundary, he just doesn't have it. And until he fixes that, he loses half the field for himself. He himself takes away half the field.
He lost his game.
Exactly. I mean, outside the numbers, Haskins' accuracy has been an issue, and that looks like a trend that is going to continue. But we're going to move on to the defensive side of the ball, where, as we anticipated, the unit fought until they literally couldn't anymore. The Browns won the time of possession game as we anticipated. Nick Chubb and company owned the line of scrimmage. Chase Young, the best player the Watch football team has drafted in a long time, who's averaged a sack a game, was actually tied with T.J. Watt leading into this game. Went out in the second quarter with a groin injury, something he kind of struggled with during training camp. He was seemingly fine, went over the sideline, dapping Jonathan Allen and everybody up. Kind of seemed more like a precautionary thing. I think it's safe to say, guys, that with Young not on the field, the difference between this unit was night and day. Is that fair?
I wouldn't say night and day. I think they still held up pretty well. Montez really filled that void. He had a good game. And even John Allen and Payne both had really solid games on the inside. So, man, I mean, I think there was a difference. Kerrigan was a non-factor. He's actually his impact was jumping on 4th and short.
Been in the league for a decade, and he's jumping off sides.
There's something we need to talk about here, and it's not Chase Young. It's Matt Ioannidis.
Hold on, let's go back to Chase. Let's go back to Chase really quick.
All right.
We're gonna get to Matt, but I think that Chase, like, you definitely felt it. You felt that the defense never really got to Baker as much. You felt like the run game definitely. Even though Chubb racked up a ridiculous amount of yardage, I feel like most of that came later in the game as the defense progressively got more tired.
Like I said, that was our case in point last week, was that they were just going to get tired, man. And with these injuries stacking up throughout the game, like you said, Kerrigan being a non-factor. Say what you want about Chase Young and the difference not being night and day. I thought it was. I thought the first quarter, when Young and everybody were on the field, that Cleveland Brown offense was having trouble. They were not able to score. I mean, they just were not moving the chains.
But when did they honestly come alive? When Dwayne threw a pick. That's really the only time the defense didn't really hold up.
A lot of it is attributed to Dwayne, but I mean, you also have to give some of that to the fact that some of your best players on defense pretty much went out of the game.
Yeah, so let's go. Owen, I want you to hit on your point about Ioannidis.
Matt Ioannidis, in case you guys couldn't tell, by the way that Montez Sweat was playing, he got the majority of his pressures and the majority of his sacks when he came on the inside. The Browns' inside interior offensive line, it just wasn't good this game. And so the key, like Jonathan Allen too, whenever he came on the inside of the line in the interior, he got his sack. That's where the pressure needed to come from. And that key loss of Matt Ioannidis super early before we lost Chase Young is what really got us. I think if Matt Ioannidis was in that game from early on and he played for the majority up until the third quarter, then it would have been a different game. I think we would have gotten more pressures, more sacks, and we probably would have gotten a fumble out of Baker.
I still don't think we would have been able to overcome those turnovers, honestly, now that I think about it. But I do agree.
We wouldn't have come over the turnovers. That's on the offensive side of the ball. But Matt Ioannidis would have made a difference.
Yeah, I definitely think the game would have been a lot closer. I think the defense definitely would have clamped up a lot more. Something we got to talk about. It was the big talking point going into this game was the secondary. How do you guys think about Kendall Fuller? How do you think he looked in his return to the field?
I thought Kendall did all right. His tackling was a little worrisome. It wasn't fantastic, but neither was anyone else's. But the best part about it was you never really saw him today. You never really heard his number get called or his name get called. So I feel like he did a pretty decent job. But I think as the defense as a whole, they didn't play great. They definitely got put in some bad situations by the offense, but there were still opportunities to make plays that they didn't. And that, I mean, you might be going there in a second, but that lands on the shoulders, in my opinion, of Landon Collins and Troy Apke.
Honestly, I think Troy had a lot better of a game than Landon did. I think Troy, when he was one-on-one with Odell in a lot of situations, he did what he needed to do. He didn't get worn like a glove like he had in weeks prior. to me, Landon Collins, week after week, is not playing up to his salary. Owen said last week, Troy is what round draft pick? I honestly can't remember off the top of my head.
Troy at 6 or 5.
Yeah, he's a late round draft pick. So, I mean, you don't expect that much from him. But Landon Collins, one of the highest paid safeties in the NFL, is constantly making bonehead plays on a consistent basis in the secondary. Yes, he can tackle, man, but just a complete liability in coverage. And, I mean, at that point in the game where Landon allowed that big touchdown, we were up 20-17. That was kind of a backbreaker.
He doesn't want it. I don't see him wanting it on the field. Like, I see other players who are being aggressive. If you look at a Jimmy Moreland, you look at him on the field and you can see that he wants it. He's going after the ball. He's going after the person with the ball. He wants to be on that field.
He's hungry.
You can just see it, right? The hunger, the drive. Whenever I look at Landon Collins, I don't see hunger or drive. I see maybe some aggressiveness, but that's not hunger or drive. That's just wanting to hit somebody.
I don't see that.
Like, I saw it once, and it was when he got an unnecessary roughness penalty. Only time.
He was tackling well early, but just that blown coverage deep, man, that late in the game was just a huge detriment. And like I said, it's kind of where I've been using a lot. I mean, it was a backbreaker.
He has nothing to prove. Right now, he has his bag. What are they going to do? Trade him? Cool. Someone else will have him. Like he has nothing to prove right now. I don't understand. It's like he needs to have hunger for him to do something, and he just doesn't have it.
I've never seen a safety rest his laurels so much on one season than he does on his 2016 season. He kind of carries himself as if, he's Jamal Adams, I mean, like has nothing to prove to anybody. And I'm not going to sit here and just bash Landon Collins the whole pod, but at the end of the day, man, week in and week out.
Like he's Sean Taylor, which he's no.
Yeah, and wanted his number and everything. And Sean Taylor would never allow a play like that. I mean, I know that's a silly thing to say, but at the end of the day, man, something's got to change there, man. And like you said, the team's not inclined to trade him. He is a great leader, but at the end of the day, I'm just not seeing anything out of Landon Collins to warrant the contract that he makes, and for the fans to put him on such a high pedestal as they do. That's just my biggest pet peeve with him. But let's move on from Landon. That's a conversation we're going to have every single week because it's always been a problem with him. Honestly, I think the defense was under a lot of scrutiny going into this game. And I think for what they were working with, they performed well. Not great well. But, I mean, there's only so much you can do when the offense turns over the ball 5 times. What are some other things about the defensive performance that stuck out to you guys?
Apke played awful, just like always, man. Like that, he's definitely a liability, and I don't understand how he has that position locked down so heavily.
Apke had OBJ playing defense.
Okay, but if wait, I can put this argument to bed right now. If that's a well thrown ball, Apke's burnt. OBJ ran right by Apke, and the ball was underthrown.
He doubled back to get the ball.
No, bro. I will add. Also had some great tackles on Kareem Hunt.
Wait. I will add the play in the pod when I edit. He was sitting there like a deer in the headlights. OBJ ran right by him, and the ball was just underthrown.
Because he was reading the ball.
If it's a well thrown pass, that's a touchdown.
You can't blame Apke for that.
I want to give him.
Yes, I can.
I want to give Troy the benefit on the doubt on one play in 3 weeks. Okay, let me do that for one play.
I won't even.
But you're not going to address
Curl. That's my question.
You're not going to address Apke's.
Was Cameron Curl? He was nowhere on the field. He was one of the best graded rookie defensive backs in the first 2 weeks of ball, and then all of a sudden his name wasn't called once. Did you hear them say "good play" like Cameron Curl?
I saw him times. I saw him make a couple plays, but he didn't have an impact.
When I was watching this game too, right along beside you, and it just this ain't not called.
I saw about 2 plays. They were run plays. He stuck his nose in on. I think they were like
2 tackles. But that's like he had impact before. He changed the game a little whenever he was on the field as a defensive back, 7th round rookie. We need to give him the opportunities. Everyone sees it right now. If anyone's going to embody the Sean Taylor legend of what our defense needs right now, Cameron Curl has been bodying that. He's the only person on defense right now that I see is hungry besides Chase Young and Montez Sweat. The only person.
I want to say this about Apke too. He also had 2 missed tackles on the same play inside the 5-yard line.
Didn't the whole defense miss a tackle on 2 of those Nick Chubb touchdowns?
But that was literally the most embarrassing play I've ever seen by a safety in my life.
And I don't know, man. I can't sit here and minimalize what Landon Collins is doing and then sit here and rip apart a late round draft pick like Troy Apke when he plays Odell well deep and he's making great open field tackles like Kareem Hunt. It's easy to keep Troy Apke.
He made one tackle today. He made one tackle today.
Make sure you give Landon Collins that same energy.
Yeah, Landon Collins was trash. I led it off with that. I said Landon Collins, Troy Apke were the worst players on the defensive side of the ball today. But, I mean, you're out here killing Landon. I might as well kill Apke. I mean, just a little yin and yang.
You're not giving Apke like any credit though, and he made some plays.
He's trash. He's garbage.
If y'all are gonna start calling people garbage, I'm gonna just real quickly say, I have been very pleasantly surprised by Darby. He hasn't made that much an impact, but he's been sturdy. He's
not being targeted.
He's been consistent. That's what I want right now. I want consistency. We have no consistency on any player on either side of the ball besides Chase Young and our defensive line. Besides that, no player has been consistent. Darby has been consistent. I like that. Keep Darby. Continue that trend. I like this. Yes,
I definitely called that Ronald Darby upswing. I told everybody, man, if he stays healthy, he is a good corner in this league, and he's already up leaps and bounds for what we got from Josh Norman last year.
He is statistically the best corner Washington has right now, I believe. Which I called, by the way, in a tweet that people destroyed me for. But he's statistically
well, Kendall hasn't seen the field yet, so.
What?
Today was Kendall's first game, so.
Hold on, let me get Chris. Kendall played awful today. I saw nothing. He looked absolutely terrible.
He did not play awful, but he did not play good.
All right. The point went immediately over Owen's head. So let's move on to our final point. Let's move on to our final point here, and it's a very controversial topic in regards to this Cleveland Browns matchup, and that is Ron Rivera and his usage of the timeouts. So the Washington football team was down 2 scores with under 2 minutes left, and Ron Rivera didn't even swing back. Ron Rivera was on Washington Football Talk earlier in the week talking to JP Finley about his usage of the timeouts, and he's honestly tired of people asking him questions about it because he says that he's a young team that he's trying to develop, and he does not want to thwart the process of that or risk injury. So if his team is in a position where they are down big late, he does not see the need in putting his team in a bad situation. So he does not feel inclined to use those timeouts. He did not do it last week, and he did not do it this week. A lot of people see this as conceding defeat. I know last week we brushed up on a little bit. We didn't anticipate that happened 2 weeks in a row. Did it rub you guys the wrong way?
It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch as a fan perspective because you feel like anything can happen. You know, quick score, onside kick, we're back in this thing. But the odds are so far not in your favor. And I feel like if Ron Rivera would have called those timeouts this week, then it's like he's not staying true to his word. Then you question what he did last week because it's identical situations. I mean, what do you? Yeah, go ahead, Owen.
I also think he's on the sideline and he can tell the momentum of his players. I think if we had just started getting things going and we started building momentum and we're at that point, I think he would have considered it more. I think it would have been like, okay, our players they're getting hungry. We might be able to get something out of this.
Yeah.
But the way the game was going, we can't question that because we didn't know the momentum and we didn't get the vibe of what was happening on the sideline.
No, I knew it. I knew it from home, sitting on my couch watching it on the TV. We had nothing. We had nothing. I mean, it is completely different if you're coming off a few, successful drives, maybe some scores. Maybe
This was not 30-15. This was 20-34. That's a 2-score game. Your quarterback's playing piss poor.
30-15 is 2 scores.
He can run some 2-minute drills, get some quick high-tempo offense in there, maybe score some feel-good points, make it a 1-score game. Everything looks a lot better on paper. It was a lot more understandable last week when you're playing the Arizona Cardinals, who are a very good football team. But you're playing the Cleveland Browns here, and Haskins is already having a bad day, and you can end the day on a high note. But it's almost as if you're kind of protecting him, shielding him from making another mistake, could make another turnover. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what was going on. That and injuries. I mean,
but that isn't good enough of a reason. That doesn't make Haskins better.
If you walk away in both situations with a loss, then who does it help? Say that, on top of throwing an interception, Dwayne throwing his 4th interception of the day, say Morgan Moses goes down with an injury. I mean, and people want to make the argument.
Those things. You
can't. You can't. But the odds are,
that's why you don't risk it.
Exactly.
I understand that outlook, man, but at the end of the day, look at the Cowboys for God's sake. I mean, they were down how much? Oh, hold on, Owen. They were down how much to the Atlanta Falcons? And they come all the way back. You think if they played football like that, they would have came back and won that game? And I know we're talking about the biggest choke artist in the NFL and the Atlanta Falcons, but at the end of the day, man, what is the point of conceding against the Cleveland Browns? They're not the Arizona Cardinals, man. You score a touchdown in that situation, you get to your 28-34. Then you score another touchdown. Maybe you were miraculously covered onside. I know it's a stretch, but how are you making Dwayne Haskins any better just by throwing the white towel in against a really mediocre football team? That's not making anybody better. It was way more understandable last week. And injuries, you can't predict that, man. I mean, come on. Did anybody predict Nick Bosa going down? Did anybody predict Christian McCaffrey going down? Did anybody predict anybody going down last week when they did? Those weren't late games. Those were early games. That's why you
don't risk it. Look, you cannot compare the Cowboys.
You risk it every time you step on the field.
The Cowboys have a proven quarterback that is an elite quarterback. Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He is consistent with what he does. They have a top 10 running back in Zeke. They have, when healthy, a really good offensive line. The receiving core is by far top 5 in the NFL. You cannot compare the Cowboys to Washington because they are in a win it now.
I can compare coaching outlook to other coaching outlook. And at the end of the day, just sitting down and laying down and taking it in this situation is completely different than last week. We were not coming back last week. It was 30-15. This was
we weren't coming back this week either.
Haskins was throwing on them all day, whether it be turnovers or not. He was moving the chain
on them, as in their chest, and getting interceptions. He was not bringing us back.
He was shielding Haskins, man. And nobody can tell the other
pocket. Even Chris said that. In this game today.
He's protecting Haskins when Haskins deserves to take the brunt of all of this loss.
Imagine if we got Haskins injured because one of our offensive linemen misses a block, which, okay, we've seen that happen a million times already this season. One of our offensive line misses a block. Myles Garrett comes rushing in and nails Haskins, and all of a sudden he's down with a bruised rib. What's going to happen then? We're out 4 weeks without Haskins. Then
what a huge blow. Not like we have Kyle Allen, who actually won games in the league, and Alex Smith, who's a proven veteran behind him. Come on, man. At some point, we have to understand that you can't shield Haskins forever. You know?
He's not shielding Haskins. He's trying to develop Haskins to see if he actually
make himself a sideline when he can learn, when he can get some reps in with 2-minute drills and learn how to dig his team out of a hole.
Hey, look, tell me this.
He's not going to dig his team out of that hole, dude. We were down by more than.
Then he never will. Then he never will. You've given Haskins the ceiling already. Go ahead, Chris.
I want to make this point. Last week when Ron decided to kick the field goal and not go for it on 4th down, he said it was for the mentality of the team. You know, you don't want to leave that game being shut out. You want to put some points on the board just for a little bit of momentum, just for a little bit of positivity. I don't know what game it was exactly last year, but there was a game that ended where Dwayne Haskins tried to throw a pass backwards and then ended up getting returned for a touchdown late in the game that we weren't coming back from. If something like that happens again, that doesn't. And I know Dwayne Haskins is coming off of a 3-interception, 4 turnover, should have been 5 turnover game for him himself. But if he ends a game like that, it's just one more. It's just one more bullet he has to bite. And I understand your point in saying let him bite him because that's what NFL players do. I mean, Big Ben throws 6 interceptions and comes back the next week and throws 4 touchdowns. I get that.
Dwayne Haskins' feelings. If you ever want to get better, you have to go. It's trial by fire, man. And Haskins has to learn situational football. And even when his team has all the tempo, all the momentum in the world, he is missing the throws. And those 2-minute drills, everybody's playing prevent defense. They're backed off. We'd be sitting here talking about his statistics and all those garbage time yards he's getting. Well, I mean, I just don't understand what you benefit from putting him on the sideline in that situation. You could have made it a 1-score game, kick it onside, okay. But, I mean, you're completely conceding in this instance. It was way more understandable last week. And I do understand what you're both saying about the morale. You know, you got a young team here. You want them to be high going into the next week. But at the end of the day, man, that is probably one of the easiest situations as a quarterback that Haskins can be in. Yeah, if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But, I mean, those are not things that you can predict. They're not. And, I mean, if we were down
by why you don't risk it. If you can't predict it, don't risk it. If you can predict it, then, by hell, but, like, please. Go ahead, put him out there. If you can predict it, he's not.
Oh, and you're talking about benching this dude by week 8, and you're acting like if he plays this game for 2 more minutes,
I'm talking about understanding if he's going to be the future
ruin his
career, or understanding if we need to draft a new quarterback by week 8. We cannot have this kid get injured and then just prolong the understanding of what his ceiling is. We have no clue if this kid can be a future Hall of Famer or if he's going to be the next Nathan Peterman right now. We have absolutely
well. Then, if
zero
we're going to play this conceding logic, then why don't we just pull Haskins out by the second quarter next week? Because we're going to be getting blown the hell out there too.
You got a point there.
Come on, man. At some point, it has to give. I've got this dude's jersey on my wall, but you don't throw the ball high. You don't throw off your back foot. You don't stare your receivers down. These are mechanics that NFL quarterbacks should know. And at some point, we need to understand that the pedestal we put him on as a fan base. You know, all these workout videos. Oh, Dwayne's going to eat this year. Dwayne's going to eat this year. Dwayne's going to eat this year. And I've been one of Dwayne's biggest enthusiasts. But at the end of the day, that situation with 2 minutes left, down 2 scores, Haskins should be able to score there. The defense is playing backed up. You know, that's honestly just there to pad his stats. And you pull them there, I understand if you're down 15 to the dynamic Arizona Cardinals, but to the weak-ass Cleveland Browns, you're going to play that methodical, I'm just going to let the clock run out approach? Come on, man. To me, this year is starting to feel nothing more than like a prolonged audition for Dwayne Haskins so Rivera can go get his guy. That's
exactly what it might be, and I'm okay with that.
But let's just call it how we see it, man. You know, you can listen to whoever's listening to this. You can listen to all these other Washington Football Talk podcasts. But at the end of the day, man, I'm just going to call it like I see it. And how I see it is that they're trying to shield Haskins. They're trying to protect his ego. When at the end of the day, you look at Sunday's America's Game of the Week. You got Russell Wilson making plays. You got Dak Prescott making plays. You got Joe Burrow with nothing over there. Like I said last week, man, you got Justin Herbert. You got all these guys that are coming in and making immediate impacts for their team. And we're over here throwing a victory parade for this dude when he throws 1 touchdown. Come on, man. Something's got to give, and at some point, we got to stop protecting this guy. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel.
I'm willing to throw away this season to find out what Dwayne has. I don't want to see him pulled.
I don't want to see him pulled either.
He already said, he told us week 2, this is not a win now season. This is a let's see what we have season.
I honestly think
expecting them to try and win every game, then find a new team, bud, because that's not.
What do you mean try to win every game? I mean, if this is a rebuilding season, then what do they lose from playing those last 2 minutes?
A possible injury, which would lead to the future.
It's football.
I understand.
We're not going to the playoffs.
Football's a business too.
I feel like it's the situational aspect of it. Just look at it from the point of view. If Ron, let's go back to the Cardinals game before there was any type of controversy, before this has ever happened before we've had any time to think about it. Say we're in the Cardinals game and we go for it. We call the timeouts and we put another drive together and Terry tears his ACL when we're down 2 scores with a minute left. And what are we saying then? What are we saying then?
Trying to win a game.
I get that, and I understand you can't predict injuries. And there's a possibility that no one gets injured. There's a possibility that 5 players on the team get injured.
We're not 3-12 yet.
Do you think we're gonna make the Super Bowl this year?
You guys are acting like we're trying to rest starters, like we've already clinched home field advantage or something.
No, I'm trying to put us in a position.
If there's not a chance that we're gonna win the Super Bowl this year, which there's not any way in God's green earth we're gonna win the Super Bowl this year, then why the hell are we gonna go ahead and possibly injure people that we need for the future?
I know this
injuries
phrase
can be career changing. If Terry goes out and tears his ACL on a play that we don't need to play, then that can end his career right there, just like that.
Look, man, I know this phrase is a little bit beyond your time, but you play to win the game, man. And I'm sorry, you can only protect Haskins, but so much. You can only protect Haskins, so much.
You can't constantly say you have to win the game. We're not in a win now season. If we are in a win now, we have a chance to make the Super Bowl. I'm all with you, man. We got to play those minutes, but there's no way we're gonna have any more success than.
I mean, those are things you say though with your team. Those are things you say when your team has shortcomings. But when we
are in a shortcoming. We're in a rebuild. This season is a shortcoming. This is going to be a trash season.
Week 3.
Okay. This is going to be a bad season.
You know what I'm saying here.
This is going to be a bad season. I don't find any way around that. This is going to be a bad season. We shouldn't risk people's careers on plays that we don't need to play. I'm okay with not calling a timeout. It's just how I am.
I see both your point. I see both your points, and I get your point, Parker, too. Because from my perspective as like a fan, it hurts to like give up with 2 minutes left and watch Baker Mayfield, Conor McGregor himself all over the field for an entire 2 minutes, and including post game. But
Gibson's running a draw over there when there's 2 minutes left. I'm like, this should be a situation where Haskins darts us down the field, at least puts it within one score. If you don't get the onside, okay, who cares? But
I get all that. I think my biggest takeaway from it all is that I'm glad Ron stood by his mission and his game plan by doing it 2 weeks in a row. Because if he would have called those timeouts this week and gone for it, I feel like he goes back on everything he said last week. I get both of your sides, but I feel like if Ron goes for it this week, he calls those timeouts and tries to make a drive, then he goes back on everything he said last week.
You can try to protect Dwayne Haskins, not you specifically, Chris, but they can try to protect Dwayne Haskins as much as they can, but at some point he has to go into the fire. At some point, this game's either going to look too fast or too slow for him, and we're going to find out who he is. And I don't think there's ever a time, it's never too early for us to know that. And like I said, anybody who's seen 2-minute drills, who's seen the last couple minutes of a football game where the other team's up big, no one was trying to make a comeback, everybody plays offset, man. Those would have been opportunities for Dwayne to kind of get some confidence back, move the chains, get one last score, build his confidence back up. Then you come out of that one score down. And, he's sitting there saying, he was happy to get on the board last week. He was happy to get on the board. And you told me it wouldn't have been a morale boost just to come out of this game with a one-score game?
I'm telling you that he wouldn't have made a touchdown. He probably would have thrown another interception.
Okay.
So why would you want him to throw another interception, dude? That's not going to be there's more than just Haskins on this team that we need to worry about, like, for momentum and wise. Like, if Chase gets injured one game and they're down by 3 touchdowns and they lose, what does that mean for next week? Do you think he's going to be also like, yeah, let's get back on the field, we're coming off a good game? No.
I understand that this is there's a lot of moving parts in the NFL and there is a psychological aspect to it, but at the same time, man, it's results driven. You still have the win no matter that. Like, you have to make it work. I mean, look at San Francisco 49ers. They freaking Nick Mullins 346 passing yards today, man. Come on.
Nick Mullins proved that he was a good quarterback last year.
Would you sign him?
Whenever Jimmy, I would have signed him this year
as a starter.
Not as. He has a little bit more to prove.
Okay, my point exactly. That's enough about Haskins. Like I said, I don't care if the Giants lose Nick Mullins. I don't care if Dallas gets blown out. I don't care if the Eagles tied. You cannot afford to play like this next week against the Baltimore Ravens. And I guess if we're going off Ron Rivera's logic, Dwayne Haskins is going to play the first quarter and we're going to be down by 30. So honestly, I don't have a whole lot positive to say about the game, man. It was demoralizing. It was embarrassing. And I can understand the Arizona Cardinals lost a lot more. This one definitely hurt a lot more. So that's our post-game pod for this week, guys. So make sure you guys leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to us on. Make sure you give us a follow on all social medias at Washington Brawl. If you can't find them, we got our link tree everywhere, so make sure you guys check that out. Head over to www.brawlnetwork.com and read Washington Brawl lead writer Dave Overman's latest pieces on there. He's back from vacation, so he's going to be driving some heat for you guys here this week. Also, while you're there, pick up some Washington Brawl swag, rep your boys. Check out this episode and other episodes of Washington Brawl on YouTube, as well as our Washington Brawl Man 21 Game of the Week series. Our next episode, we look to Week 4's matchup against the juggernaut known as the Baltimore Ravens, and welcome a special guest for the first time ever to the show. So make sure you guys don't miss that.
Hey, Parker, before you wrap it up, I'm sorry I cut you off in your shining moment role there. That's right fine. There. But I just want to say real quick, I thought it was fascinating that today the Washington franchise as a whole went under 500 for the first time since 1975, and it was also the first time that Cleveland's been above 500 for the first time in forever. So I think that pretty much sums up the entire pod. So go ahead and hit it.
Higher
we need to rest our starters until we're above 500. We don't want to risk an injury. This has been the Washington Brawl podcast presented to you by the Brawl Network. Peace.